Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribe Star. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Pill Nation Hangout number 356. This is the Canada content, because if we had added the Canada content onto 355, we would have been up until probably like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. With me, V at some point will likely be joining us, but for right now, it is just me and Rearson. So Rearson, introduce yourself.
Yeah. Rearson, the guy that gets abducted by aliens and have my ass violated in various interesting ways that seems to turn Naroki on for some strange reason or another. I don't know. I've been on this guy for long enough, although maybe it's a little bit too long, since he seems to be more obsessed about this than I am not. And on that note, I got nothing more.
No gimp suit implications today.
Bullshit.
This
podcast is young.
This show is being sponsored by the Memory Rock. That's right, that Memory Rock. It's just a rock with the word memory spelled on it. If you have a problem, just take the Memory Rock and keep hitting yourself in the head like that until you either remember what the hell it is you forgot, or unconsciousness sinks in. Either way, it ceases to be your problem. That's right, the Memory Rock. And new
endorsed by Joe Biden.
And speaking of which, we have the new Joe Biden version and the new blonde version, which is actually a rock about the size of your fist, because we all know them blondes need that extra kick. So
they have a depth problem. Anyway.
Yep, exactly. So that is it. For those of you who don't know, I am at BitChute Odyssey. Actually, I'm starting. Well, we're at TLB Talk too, but I mean, I usually start it with the video content first. So it's YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, and Bradion and MGTOW TV. I am at TLB Talks, Facebook, Minds, Gab, MeWe, and Getter, and Gab. Must forget Gab. The topics tonight, and yeah, it is straight up Canada content, and we have six. Rearson wanted to make it 7, but I didn't want to do 7. And I didn't think the last Copycat Introduce was all that great. Unless, of course, Christopher Freeland decided to bond with Rearson and put on a gimp suit too.
As I said, the podcast was early, and that was premature delivery too, buddy. No standards, folks. No fucking standards.
I'm gonna have to have a sign that comes up right at the start of the show: one standard, no standard. Topic number 1: Tucker Carlson visits Alberta. Justin Trudeau and Cabinet lose their minds. Fuck, did they ever lose their minds?
Wow. Can't wait to jump on this one already. Okay. Number
2, Canadian court rules the use of Emergency Act against Convoy violated charter. Again, that was no surprise. 3, and I think I'm going to let Rearson go first on this one. Joe Rogan endorses Pierre Poilievre for Prime Minister. Topic number 4, 50-year-old transgender swimmer swam against teens in Barrie, Ontario. Topic number 5.
Wow. Oh, sorry. Just going to say quickly on that one. Didn't we just talk about that shit yesterday?
Oh, yeah, that was Leah Thomas. This is different.
Same basic thing. Anyway.
All right. Topic number 5: Alberta to introduce parental rights bill similar to what Saskatchewan did. And topic number 6, 5 hockey players from the Canadian national junior team in 2018 under investigation for sexual assault. I am suffering from the blessings of Nurgle to a great extent, which may explain why I have a bit of a headache tonight. Pop some Tylenols before I started, so hopefully I'll be able to get through the entire show. Yes, I'm guessing somewhere between the next 10 and 15 minutes, V will be jumping on board. But let's just get right into this particular show. And let's start out with the very first topic, which is Tucker Carlson visiting Alberta, in Canada, specifically Alberta. Now, I have downloaded this particular video yet, but Tucker Carlson took the time and effort and liberty to call Justin Trudeau's office to let him know that he was coming up to Canada to help liberate Canada from the likes of him.
Thank you for your call. You have reached the media line. For all urgent requests, please send your request by email. Merci pour votre appel. Vous avez atteint la ligne médiatique. Merci beaucoup.
Yes, hi. I couldn't understand the French part, but it's Tucker Carlson calling from the United States. And I'd be grateful if you pass a message on to the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. We are coming to liberate Canada. We are coming to liberate Canada. And we'll be there soon. Merci.
I mean, this goes beyond me and the fact that I was targeted last night at this event. This increases political violence against everyone who runs for office in this country, whether they're doing it at the municipal level, at the provincial level, or at the federal level. As my friend and colleague Randy said, we can have differences of opinion. We can bang our fist on the table when we meet. We can have strong disagreement. But to incite violence against people who disagree with you, that's not how things should be done in Canada.
Are you not contributing to the divide by coming out here and comparing Poilievre to this and making this about him? Are you not contributing to the divide by doing that? If your government has been accused...
We're not comparing Poilievre to him. I think what
You're not? Have you looked at your own advertising from
Mr.
your party?
What Mr. Rodriguez just said is he said, I'm asking Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the opposition, to condemn those hateful and violent statements by Tucker Carlson.
But are you not comparing him to Trump?
How are you not comparing him?
Now, everybody with half a brain knows that was a joke. But Trudeau is such a self-absorbed, narcissistic egomaniac that he literally shit his pants. The usual talking trained seals on Twitter all collectively spurged out about Tucker Carlson visiting. It gets a free and open country. Tucker Carlson can come up and do a speech all he fucking wants to. Yeah, I hate to break it to you. Canada's still a democracy, at least on paper anyway. Did a speech in Calgary, did a speech in Edmonton. It was well received. Daniel Smith was at one or both of them. Wasn't there, only had to listen to parts of it. He was obviously very well received, but that's not what this was about. I was kind of expecting that Tucker Carlson was going to be very well received in the province of Alberta. The big issue was the way, and again, right, Justin Trudeau, because Justin Trudeau usually doesn't pull the spurg out shit. What he will do is he'll get his stooges in his cabinet to do the spurging out for him. And what happened is they literally had 3 ministers, including that peckerhead Gilbeau, and the guy who I think it's Sergio Marquis or whatever the fuck his name is, the one that made it impossible for anybody in Canada to post Canadian content on Facebook. And by the way, it's still not out of the question that it might also go and apply to Google as well. He was there, and then there was another minister. Guilbeault was in the back crying, "Oh, Tucker Carlson specifically targeted me," and it was like, "Yeah, well, no fucking kidding, Stefan Guilbeault. I mean, you're the way. I mean, I haven't actually. I obviously wasn't there, but it's very clear from your interactions with Daniel Smith that Daniel Smith clearly felt the need to impose a notwithstanding clause on your energy policy. And then to say you were targeted, yeah, well, that's to be expected. You're the one that's been coming over here. And I mean, it's going to potentially get really bad come 2026, for instance. Daniel Smith is on the record as saying that the only way that the auto manufacturers in Canada are going to be able to comply with the regulations that Trudeau has brought into place is to limit the number of cars that they produce. And it's like specifically gas-powered trucks make up a huge chunk. And I don't know what Calgary is like, but if you go out into the countryside, or even say a larger town, like a smaller city, like Red Deer, like you will notice something about Alberta specifically, and it is Alberta because it doesn't necessarily. You definitely don't see this in Vancouver, and you don't see it so much in the cities. But if you go into the interior, you go to Alberta, you will notice something. For instance, when I'm in the camp that I go to, right? There's usually not a lot of cars there. There's more than a few trucks, and they are all gas-powered. I don't know.
Or diesel.
Or diesel. I don't know how electric-powered vehicles are going to fucking work in places where there is no electrical grid. Like, oh yeah, I am all fucking ears on that one. So yeah, Daniel Smith has had to do the obvious because I think it's been explained. It has been explained to Guilbeault over and over and over and over and over again that there's just not the resources. And keep in mind, the planet is getting warmer. Although I don't know whether it's cyclical or whether it's actually because of human activity. And yeah, there is definitely a pollution problem, which, by the way, does not get fixed by electrical vehicles because they will still have to dispose of the batteries. And by the way, the batteries are as expensive. For instance, you buy the electrical vehicle, and then your battery only lasts about 2 years, and then you have to get another one, and each of those batteries runs you about $10,000. So, how are they going to get? Where are they going to get the money to replace those batteries? That means that they're going to, in order for the batteries to get replaced, they're going to have to build something into the cost of the automobile via insurance so that the batteries are just automatically replaced after a certain period of time. Plus, oh yeah, you also got to get the charging stations, and yeah, you also have to get the electrical capacity to charge said vehicles even out in remote areas. Big, huge, duh, right? We had a situation that happened did you actually get that text saying that you had to be,
Yep.
I got it too.
Yep.
They tried to blame that. They tried to blame that on Daniel Smith, and Daniel Smith was like, no, don't blame me. We tried to bring more plants online, but the federal government was just throwing up roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And then when they did get reduced electrical production capacity, they tried to blame it on her.
The only reason why we didn't, the only reason why it didn't actually go to rolling blackouts is that Saskatchewan, kind of at the last minute, was more or less a Hail Mary, was able to provide the additional power. That was it. Like, we got by on the skin of our teeth. So, my apologies.
And if we'd had gas powered and coal power plants to make up the difference, this wouldn't have happened. In fact, in years past, and even in colder winters, there has never been a problem up until now. So, you want to say something? Okay.
Yeah. I will when it's my turn.
Okay. So yeah. Oh, well, it's the Americans interfering in the... Well, I mean, it's like, to give you an idea, I mean, because I think Rearson is going to go first on topic number 3. He has some opinions about Joe Rogan, which I am not really involved in. It'll be my turn to not give a shit. But, I mean, this whole thing just is not going to work. That's part of the reason why I said Trudeau is going to hang. Like, there isn't going to be... He's not going to call an election this year because he needs to hang on to the absolute last second, because he's that type of guy. He's not his father's son. That's for damn sure. Pierre Trudeau, not Justin Trudeau. Pierre Trudeau had enough brains to know when his time was up and when it was time to leave. And he did leave when it was for his time to go. I mean, even Brian Mulroney figured it out. He had to figure it out the hard way. But Brian Mulroney was smart enough to figure out when his time was up, and he left. Justin Trudeau is not Pierre Trudeau. He doesn't have his father's brains. He doesn't have his father's moxie. And yeah, I have seen photos of Pierre Trudeau at the same age that Justin is now, and they look like their father and son. I am not of the opinion that he's the son of Fidel Castro, although they do have the same.
He's not Castro Jr. Again, my friend, we are going to agree to disagree on that one.
I have seen photos of Pierre Trudeau at the same age that Justin Trudeau is now. Except for the hairline, you can pretty much tell that they're related.
You took the words right out of my mouth. You took the words literally right out of my mouth. Oh my God, that is
what? What?
Anyway.
Pierre. I said Pierre Trudeau and Justin Trudeau at the same age.
You did. No. What you said was the hairline, because that's the next thing I was just going to say. Because Pretty Boy has got glowing locks of hair, and what do I think that is? Surrogate father, his stepfather have? The guy's as bald as a fucking eagle. Anyway.
Well, I mean, we don't know about Mark. The hairline stuff usually comes from the mom's side of the family, so I don't know what Pierre. Although Justin Trudeau's mother, Pierre Trudeau's ex-wife, wasn't Margaret Sinclair wasn't exactly selective in who she slept with.
No, she wasn't. If it wasn't one of the Rolling Stones, it was going to be Fidel Castro and anybody in between.
So yeah, I don't know what the hairlines are like in her family. You'd have to look at one of her brothers to find out for sure. But yeah, Justin looks like Pierre's son. He does. The whole issue, we're kind of getting off on point here. You can kind of tell a lot about how Justin Trudeau governs by how he reacted to this. Like, he absolutely lost his shit. The way, and oh yeah, by the way, they tried to drag Pierre Poilievre into, we demand Pierre Poilievre condemn the visit of Tucker Carlson. And I think Pierre Poilievre's response was, it's a free country. He can do and say whatever the hell he wants. Bye. And it is. It's a free country. Just to
I was going to say, unlike China, we let people actually speak their minds. Now that's a shot across the bow. That really is, actually.
That was not spontaneous. They wanted to drag Pierre Poilievre into it, and of course, it's not working. The way it's currently going for the Liberals, if it keeps getting worse for them, it's gonna. If they're expected. If the election were held today, the Liberals would only win 55 seats. If they lose any more seats, like if they lose another, say, 10 or if they lose another 15 or so, the official opposition might be the BQ and not the Liberals, the way the Liberals are conducting themselves right now. Just think about that. That's how unpopular the Liberals are. But you know what? I'm done talking about this. Let Rearson have his say on this, because I mean, it was sweet just seeing the way not obvious, but it was very clear from the wake that Justin Trudeau got his jimmies rustled in a big way.
It doesn't take very much when your estrogen level rivals that of most women, and I make no apologies for saying that. Anything that's not under his control, it doesn't take very much to get under his skin. I mean, he's always, when he first stepped into politics, and I was very much against Harper, the Canadian Prime Minister at the time. I was thinking anybody but Harper, but again, I've come to realize that it really doesn't matter who is in charge. They still take their orders from well above high. Oh, I do believe that introductions will be in order. So I'm going to put my thoughts on pause here. And V, mute yourself, introduce yourself, and we're on the first topic. If and when you're ready, of course. Or maybe not. I'll just keep an eye out when you take the microphone off.
V's with a woman of a certain size who's actually on top of him right now, which is he has to extricate himself from underneath her, which in the particular case of V's style of women usually involves a hydraulic jack, so he might be otherwise delayed. And continue.
So it's not Samantha 38G, it's Samantha 44 double H. Anyway.
That's some hydraulic jacking right there.
Well, hey, if you really want to go for more questions for the question, go right ahead. And if you want to stuff that butterball, hey, you know what? More power to you. Give the floor to you.
Hey, best turkey you'll ever have. Gotta love that butterball.
Yeah, as long as you don't put your own special sauce into it, I'll leave that alone.
That's her backing out of the bedroom even as we speak.
Don't forget to make sure that you hear that. Make sure you hear that tone as they're backing up.
No, that doesn't happen. Mine are chained to the bed. They never leave the bedroom.
Well, hey, whatever works for you at the end of the day. I don't know if you're the one. I don't know if you're the one that puts them in chains, or if they do it themselves as much as possible. Just saying.
How funny
crazy
would
bitches.
be for me to say stuff like this, and I'm actually like some kind of serial killer, some kind of catcher serial killer. Wouldn't that be funny?
Well, you can have them all you want, because I sure as fuck won't touch them. Anyway. Captain Ahab, it's all for you, my friend. All for you.
No, I just like saying stuff to get the feds investigating so I can bust their asses.
You just have to open up your mouth and they're all over you like flies on shit anyway.
You guys know, right?
First of all, anyway, and now for the banter. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, you guys know me. I'm V, host of the Red Pill Hardcore Radio Show, and I try to be a regular here on Red Pill Nation. So yeah, I'm here.
Okay, topic number one is Tucker Carlson visits Alberta. Justin Trudeau and his cabinet just lose their shit. And trust me, they absolutely lost their shit. Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Oh,
We're listening to you. I'm here.
Yeah, no, I'm done. I was just telling you what the topic was.
Oh,
And I would and I'm happy
next
to
topic.
give floor. Okay, you got nothing
No,
to say on this
I
one.
don't want to
Okay.
talk about Trudeau. I don't. You guys are the expert on the Canadian stuff. So go next topic.
Well, okay, well, a bit of a warning then. It's a very Canadian topic, very Canadian heavy episode.
All right, I'll
Okay,
jump in where I fit in.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case, press around, and on that note, I'll get back to what I was saying here. In fact, I've completely forgot where I was. I mean, let's say that there is a anti-Ottawa or Ottawa. Apparently, there's Carlson that educated Canadians who listen to his 20-minute speech or so. There is a growing, if not quiet, anti-Ottawa, anti-liberal especially, streak in the province. Although with the attempts with mass migration, just like it's happening south of the border, it's happening up here to try to get as much of the country under the clutches, the talons, the claws, whatever you want to say it, of Trudeau and company. Both shows were sold out. And they booked another date. Like, it was only supposed to actually be in Calgary, actually. But because Calgary sold out quickly, I wish that I was aware of what was going on. Maybe if I was on Facebook or Crackbook on it more frequently, I would have known. But at the end of the day, I would have had to have taken the day off anyway for work. So Edmonton was quickly added in for a second date. So they did that. And I know that Jordan Peterson was on there, and I don't know what to think of this. I really have no idea. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the whole thing was, it was the headline of Tucker Carlson, but he had Jordan Peterson and Conrad Black on tour. Now, I realize that that's probably a name that V's probably not familiar with, but Conrad Black was a gentleman that we did talk about way back in the day before he ended up getting sent to a low rating. It was a minimal security. It was a minimal prison, I believe, in Florida, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he ended up being caught disposing of boxes of likely evidence of his shenanigans, which I don't remember at the time it was all about. And I can't say that I've completely opened up to Conrad Black, former Lord Black, because he was given a title in Britain, in the UK. So he couldn't. What the hell was the condition? If you have some sort of a title in a foreign country, you cannot hold. I think you cannot hold public office. I think that's what it was, because I think he had ambitions of being a senator or something. I don't remember. Anyway, but it was very not enlightening, but I found it to be relieving to hear from three prominent individuals the sad state of affairs that Canada is in. Now, in this regard, my opinion is that Canada is about 2 years ahead of where Biden and company, if they're still alive, of where they want to take the United States of America instead of these United States of America. So you want to see what's going to happen? Look, folks, look north of the border of America, and you'll see what it could turn into. Now, I have to say that the Alberta premier, or shall we say governor, she said quite a lot of things that made sense, but at the same time as well, the woman is dragging her feet. And as Naruki has said, she has invoked, I can see her beginning to invoke the notwithstanding clause, because if it comes down to it being a, quote, provincial matter, then I think this is what has to be done for the provinces to know and to remember what they can and cannot do. And again, we talked about when it got below -40. And I think in parts of Alberta, I think it actually got down to -50, if I'm not mistaken, overnight for a couple of nights at least anyway. And what struck me as the most hilarious part of it all was Stephen Guilbeault. He's the energy minister, and he's the one that's telling Alberta, well, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And it was pointed out that he has no experience, go figure, being in government and with his position, except to basically say that he's an environmentalist. I'm going to say this, that I think we need to stress half of the word environmentalist. And I'm not saying environmental. I just think he's more mental than anything else, because he certainly proved it. As Naruki says, like, well, I, like, he was almost talking like Trudeau. I mean, I've been in Toastmasters. My public speaking may not be great, but it's a fuck of a lot better than those two combined. And I picked up on a more advanced technique, and I said this before years ago, but if you're going to say or ah, shut your mouth, collect your thoughts for a quick half second or a second, and then go back at it, and you should be okay. It's going to make you look less like a fucking moron. It really will. Well, not a moron, but someone who just is not comfortable not talking in front of people. Anyway, Guilbeault was basically saying that, well, there was hate speech, and please define hate speech, because I would love to know exactly what it is, and something that applies from both sides of the political aisle. But of course, those in charge, those that have the most to lose, that are the most vocal, will be barking the loudest. Anyway, to see the Saddle Dome and what was it, Commonwealth? Not Commonwealth Stadium. What is the ice rink in Edmonton? Okay.
There's two of them actually, and there's also a place that does concerts downtown that's not. There's two. I can't remember what the name of it is, but the big stadium where the Oilers play is probably where they had it. But there's another place that I've worked at numerous times, and I cannot remember what the name of it is, but it's where George W. Bush came and did his speech in 2009 after he was no longer in office. I don't know specifically where it was. It wouldn't surprise me if he sold out the stadium downtown, though. He was that popular. So
yeah, well, wherever the venue was for Carlson and company, and I guess that's really about the only way to say it, because I mean, there's Carlson, there's Peterson, and then there's Conrad Black. But anyway, but I know at the Saddle Dome, which is in Calgary, it was sold out. Well, if it wasn't sold out, it was damn near close to being. No, it was a sold out venue. Whether everybody showed up or not is another matter. And I have no doubt that Edmonton was no different. I wouldn't be surprised if it was if the Saddle Dome sold out, I could see them probably promoting it and selling it. Promoting it at the largest arena in Edmonton as well too. Regardless, it looked packed. Every available spot that was available that could have been sold for a seat, I have no doubt that that everything was gone. And honestly, I can see this kind of being a second wind for not necessarily another trucker movement, but for me at least anyway, having watched, I think I watched it for Carlson's speech, I saw it was only about 25 minutes, I believe, not quite half an hour. But watching and listening is like, finally, someone is saying what has been going through my head for quite a while. And thank God it's someone relatively civilized. I mean, I don't find Tucker Carlson to be terribly offensive. And I know you've been on the record previously, Rogan, to say that you didn't like him before, but now that you're seeing the shit that's going on, he's got more talking points than your younger self, even from maybe 10 years ago, would kind of said, that's not quite right.
Well, I mean, Conrad Black was censoring the media in regards to workers' rights and that sort of thing back in the 2000s. I mean, I did not shed any tears when Conrad Black. And by the way, I was not a fan. I remember Ezra Levant when he was just an political reporter, and he would post up in the Calgary Sun. I remember reading his stuff and like looking at him and going like, "Does this guy ever actually had a job in his life?" Like, I mean, he seemed to be a snot. And I was actually told by some people who actually knew Ezra Levant that he was a snot-nosed fucking rich kid. He's gotten a little bit humbler now that he's gotten older. He's probably taken some hits, but when I remember reading some of his stuff back in when he was writing for the Calgary Sun, it would be like, wow, like as out of touch with the people as the current left is now. I mean, I never thought. I mean, there's been a number of people now that I'm like, I cannot believe I'm actually agreeing with them. Like, I mean, I remember Outfoxed, the documentary, and how and how people were saying about how Outfoxed was nothing more than a stooge ironically enough, for Monsanto.
Oh God!
And I mean, Monsanto was a pretty. I mean, yeah, everyone talked. Well, I mean,
my opinion. My apologies.
The Pritzkers run that pharmaceutical company. And no, not Monsanto. The Pritzkers run Monsanto, and not Monsanto, but I mean the Pritzkers are pretty despicable. I mean, you know, Fox routinely ran block for Monsanto. So I mean, it's not like I had a particularly strong love affair with some of these guys in the first place. Like, I mean, I was not a fan of some of these guys. I mean, like I say, I didn't cry when Conrad Black went to jail, for instance. Anyway, but continue on, Rearson.
Well, I was going to say, I still remember our conversation at the food court level basement, shall we say, of Cascade Mall, and black was the topic of conversation. I mean, that's shit. That's like 30 fucking years ago, man. Well, not 30 years ago, but it's over 25 years ago now.
Oh yeah, Conrad Black was public enemy number one up here at one point, and for working people. Yeah.
At that time. And
I can say I'm absolutely shocked and amazed now at the side of people, like the people whose sides I'm taking now. Like, I mean, yeah, I will freely admit I was not a fan of Conrad Black. And
I didn't like him then. Believe honest, trust me, man. Like, my opinion about the man is, if he wasn't older and more experienced, I mean, he always looked up to Napoleon Bonaparte as one of his heroes, I guess is the best way to say it. Anyway, when the when the rainbow pedophile community is trying to kick up a storm, and I think they only got about 1,000 signatures to push against it, maybe 4,000, and the arena sold out. I'm pretty sure the people that were doing this whole thing, at South Dome, they're kind of going, say 4,000 people are unhappy, and we got 12,000 people that have bought tickets. Fuck them. Gets ejected, just like with. Is that a swallow? What, a European swallow or an African swallow? The Monty Python reference. That's what ended up happening to those people. So the likely kitty diddlers can scream, bitch, moan, and complain all that they want. Gibault and Trudeau and whoever else can say that they're take your pick of whatever ism or ist or whatever the case may be. They're going to throw that into the media, hoping that something's going to stick. Because, statistically speaking, you throw enough shit at a wall, something's going to stick. Well, it makes me rather disgusting to know what the composition is, and I'll do my best to be able to replicate that stuff. But, I mean, listening to his 25 minutes or so, I didn't hear anything that was hateful. Now, that could be because of my bias. That could be because of whatever. But I really didn't hear anything. I just didn't. To me, it sounded like one of those more reasonable, heaven forbid, conversations. And maybe it just takes someone with a more sympathetic ear, with family origins out in the Maritimes in Nova Scotia, to finally say, okay, what the truckers did for Canada and the world 2 years ago what a lot of Canadians were feeling. Ottawa felt really, sorry, getting ahead of myself on that one. Anyway.
Yeah, it's topic number 2.
Yep. So with what Carlson has been saying is I'm sure what a lot of Canadians are starting to feel, because 7 out of 10, 70% of the population that are sampled, it is a case of get that fucker out of Ottawa and get someone who actually understands what the country wants. Now, whether that's going to be Poilievre or Poilievre or whatever you want to call him, or heaven forbid, that fucking towel head idiot.
Oh no, towel head's not going in. The NDP hasn't lost as much support as the Liberals have, but the towel head's not fucking going in.
Thank fucking God for that. Well, at this point now, Trudeau knows that he's done. He's putting up the brave face. He's doing whatever else that's possible. But when a very influential American voice has crossed the border, even jokingly to say, yeah, we're coming in, thanks, goodbye, you're done.
Well, again, I mean, it's like, I mean, it's gotten so bad up here that even the Americans are starting to notice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they very rarely. The part of the charm of being in Canada is that the Americans pretty much left us alone. It's gotten so bad up here that the Americans are starting to notice.
Yeah, that's actually pretty damn fucking bad. But
Trudeau is probably
right now,
the only person. Trudeau is probably the only politician that anyone in my generation knows the name of. So, Trudeau.
You know what?
The millennials, the Gen Zs. Trudeau is the only Canadian politician we know. Go ahead.
Oh, actually, don't worry. I think that's pretty much about it. Well, that's about it for now. I mean, with the last election, there was Aaron O'Toole, which we called Aaron O'Who, because he was fucking forgetful. So, well, I can't say that I'm ashamed of being Canadian, but it's pretty damn fucking close. Like, I mean, it's really fucking close. Anyway, it was probably one of the best things that's happened in a long time. And I know for Jordan Peterson, he came back to the province that he was born in. I believe he was born up in Edmonton. So anyway.
Yeah, Northern Alberta. He went to U of A.
Okay.
To get his bachelor's.
Okay, because I know that Poilievre has also attended at UFC as well, University of Calgary. Anyway, I wish I went. I really do, but couldn't. So it is what it is. But a very necessary imprint has finally been given or been put onto the country. Actually, no, the corporation. And I will leave it at that. My apologies for being really long-winded. So let's move on.
Well, I mean, it was to be expected. I mean, this is the Canada episode.
Said that your province, which is the energy-rich province of the country, was almost out of electricity just recently. So does this, if at the current trajectory, it'll be Bolivia in terms of its power grid. Does that get better soon, or does it continue to get? What's your projection?
Well, fortunately, we do have people who've soldiered on and are going to bring on new baseload natural gas power in the new year, so that will stabilize on that front. Yeah. We also, I would like to take a page out of what the Americans are doing, really, because on the one hand, federal leadership is talking along the same lines that...
Oh, I've noticed.
But look what's happening. America has become the largest producer of oil and gas for export in that same period of time, while all of the politicians have said they're going in the opposite direction. So I think we should just double down and decide we're going to double our oil and gas production because... Do you want to get it from Venezuela, or do you want to get it from safe Canada? So I think that we can do a lot to make sure that the Americans know that we are here to provide energy security. We are a great friend, great ally, great neighbor, and we just need to get the political leadership to realize that we are a friend.
Then my 3-word piece of advice would be stop being embarrassed about who you are. You have nothing to be embarrassed about. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. Wait, can I say one last thing? You said CBC is in the room, the state media. I would love to do an interview with CBC. Meet me backstage. I dare you to put it on TV.
So Ezra, so Tucker's got courage. I'll tell you the story. So one of our friends owns an airline service, and he was flying us private from Bozeman, Montana to Kalispell, Montana. But the plane was coming from Canada, and for whatever reason, they had to submit who the next passengers were going to be. And we get a call. They said, "Hey, the Canadian government is flagging this, and we've only seen this when someone's on a no-fly list." And we got it cleared up, and maybe it was nothing in a confusion, but it was right during the trucker thing, like right during it. And I was the only one that probably would have flagged it. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was a paperwork thing. Maybe it was just some sort of. But I want to play this as B-roll. It's 138. Tucker Carlson just had a massive hockey game style attendance in Edmonton. What's going on here? The Patriots of Canada are rising up, Ezra.
Yeah, I was there last night. I think I might have even filmed the clip you're showing. There was about 10,000 folks in Edmonton, and that was at 7:30 p.m. And earlier that day, there was about 4,000 folks in Calgary. That's a lot of people. I don't think Justin Trudeau could fill a stadium like that in Canada. I don't know if you saw the MMA fight in Toronto where everyone was chanting F Trudeau, F Trudeau. So Tucker was welcomed as a conquering hero. Now, you saw that video where he was having a little bit of fun leaving messages for Trudeau in French and English. Canada's media is so dour, so humorless, that when Tucker makes jokes about liberating Canada, and he does it with a straight face, the media here goes berserk. And in fact, it wasn't just Tucker speaking. Jordan Peterson joined him. He's probably the most famous Canadian around the world. And someone else who joined was the premier of the province of Alberta, who would be sort of politically like the governor of Texas. Alberta is the province where those two big Tucker events were. So the premier of the province sat down to talk to Tucker. So it was quite a whole show. Today in press scrum, she was being grilled by Trudeau's CBC state broadcaster. Why did you meet with him? Do you endorse? Like the cancel culture tried to scupper Tucker's event, tried to cancel the premier from meeting with him, but it didn't work. That's one of the things that I loved about Tucker's visit. He didn't care. In fact, he liked to poke at the attempted cancelers and the censors. It was a great talk. And, sometimes an outsider coming in and telling you his thoughts on your situation, it's, we're living the Canadian situation every day. Tucker is an outsider. And when he came in and he said, look, mock Trudeau, mock Chrystia Freeland, laugh at them. They hate it. They got a thin skin, and that's a way to take them down a peg. And I thought, yeah, that's good advice. And Tucker's got a natural sense of humor. Leftists do not. Ask any comedian. They don't want to go to campuses for the comedy circuit anymore because you're not allowed to make fun of anything.
Which is too bad.
But yeah, let's get on with the next topic here. So the next topic, and this one is probably not that much of a surprise. We knew it was a violation. We knew that sham that was the the emergencies review. We knew what they were how they were going to rule. There was talk. Well, if you didn't, for those of you who don't live in Canada, when the Prime Minister has to invoke the Emergencies Act, an automatic legal review kicks in after it's done. This review pretty much exonerated Trudeau on his efforts, but I mean, there was just so much stuff during that review. The way Trudeau would go to Quebec and say stuff in French and then would say something completely different in English and hope that nobody was going to know the difference. This happened apparently quite frequently. Wow. Lying and saying that he didn't say stuff when he did. He repeatedly contradicted himself. And this was the hearing. And during that hearing, there was stories coming out that there was also a lawsuit pending that was working its way through the courts. It was eventually going to work its way up to the Supreme Court, which is maybe not up to the Supreme Court, but if it's not at the Supreme Court, it's the next level down. It might go to the Supreme Court if Trudeau decides to appeal it. Knowing what Trudeau is like, he probably will. But
well, our favorite little Ukrainian Nazi Deputy PM has said that they are going to appeal it immediately.
Of course they were.
They're going, they're going to milk it for everything they can.
So yeah, the next level down from the Supreme Court ruled that the use of the Emergencies Act against the Convoy violated the Charter, which it did. There were very clearly other options that Trudeau could have used, specifically, like maybe sending representatives from the federal government over to negotiate and, do this thing called diplomacy and talk with the truckers.
I don't want to be dealing with protesters that or things that I just don't agree with. Fucking pansy.
Oh, God.
I had to fly to Tofino.
He ran to. You literally cannot make this up. He ran to Tofino when the truckers arrived. You cannot make that up.
Tofino being on Vancouver Island, which is on the Pacific side, the southwest-ish part of the province, if I'm not mistaken.
The Gulf Islands. The Gulf Islands. It's the Gulf Islands between Vancouver Island and BC. Yeah, he ran all the way to it was like, you cannot make this. You literally cannot make that up. Aaron O'Toole, and here's the part about it. The Prime Minister waffled and ran like a coward and literally handed the Conservative and handed Aaron O'Toole the golden goose, and the motherfucker still waffled. I remember that. It's like, anybody with half a brain could see that Trudeau just handed the Conservative Party a golden goose that they could have stuck a fork in, and he didn't take it. That's what caused him to go. And of course, there was also the fact that, and I'm thinking now that this is probably being done on purpose, that the NDP had not been spending any time building up a reserve for a potential. They never even tried to build up any type of a cash reserve for a surprise non-confidence motion. So when Trudeau tried to invoke the Emergencies Act and tried to use it as a non-confidence motion, the NDP had to go along with the Conservatives because they weren't in a position to hold an election, a surprise election if one came up. So yeah, and of course there was also the trampling of civilians there. There's also the suspicious use of, there's also police that weren't carrying around IDs. There were those 3 Nazi flags that appeared. One of them just happened to pop up right in front of Trudeau's personal photographer. The other one, which is the most famous of the 3, is the one where these guys were parading around this monument in Ottawa that was absolute, and of course their faces were hidden, right?
Shocker.
Yeah, that was nowhere near where the trucker convoy was. And then the third one, and this is the one that was really damning. There was somebody who put out a big, huge Nazi flag out at the Rideau Canal. The only problem is that the place that they, first of all, nobody saw it, and the place that they did that to, you cannot walk to it on the Rideau Canal. You actually have to go up through Capitol Hill. So somebody had to actually open the door to that veranda, to that balcony, to let those people out, to let that flag out. And of course,
like that kind of sounds like the J6 entry into Capitol Hill. Just saying.
Very similar. And of course, also the very first person to like this particular post just happened to be a member of Jagmeet Singh's cabinet. Yeah. So there was
not the Weinsteins or whatever the fuck their name is.
Yeah. Oh wow. So yeah, there was just a whole bunch of stuff. Trudeau got egg on his face. Rumor has it that Joe Biden actually started. Well, I'm not Joe Biden personally, because Joe Biden probably thought it was fucking Christmas or something like that. But members of Joe Biden's,
He didn't have his memory rock gift that you would have given him for free.
yeah, he hadn't used the memory rock, so Joe Biden's staff came up and put pressure on Trudeau to reopen the borders, to keep, because it was starting to affect the U.S. economically, much like how that blockade down in Texas is going to start to affect the U.S. economically too at some point, probably sooner rather than later.
Or Paris.
Yep.
Or Paris.
Yep. The whole thing, well, and Germany too, by the way. That farmers' protest is still taking place in Germany too, by the way.
Good.
So the whole thing is just Trudeau got egg. But here's the good part about it. Jason Kenney resigned. Well, Jason Kenney backed down because Jason Kenney had been up to that. Well, I mean, I remember him listening to him in 2021 saying, "Oh, no, COVID passports and vaccine mandates are violations of the Constitution, and we're not going to go along with it." Rob Ford also said he was going to do something about that, and then backed away. With even just a slight little bit of pressure from the media. And Kenny knew that the media in Alberta, CTV and CBC and whatever, were bought and paid for. He caved almost immediately, but he uncaved the moment I think there were probably people in the Conservative caucus here in Edmonton who like as soon as this happened went, no, that's it, you're done. Like, you're removing those restrictions like yesterday, and they were gone. It was like they were never there. So it did get rid of all those vaccine restrictions, for which I was quite grateful for. Just a lot of this whole thing from 2020 through 2021, lost friendships, damaged familial relationships. Like, there's still places, there's still jobs. There's still jobs in Alberta that you cannot get if you're not vaccinated. It wasn't quite so bad for me because I was working a job where they didn't require it, and for the time that I had off, I was a bit of an introvert anyway, so I didn't really go out very much. And it actually, and this is the really weird part about it, it probably took a good 6 to 10 months for me to, in fact, I still haven't fully returned back to the way I normally would do it. But I mean, it took a good 6 to 10 months before I actually started like venturing outside and going to the coffee shop again after all this was done. I was just used to being at home. And this was bad. And Trudeau went along with it. And yeah, it was a violation of the court. And yes, they are appealing. And yes, V, this is a straight-up Canada episode, so if you have anything to say, I'm yielding the balance of my time to you. Wow, V, that's incredibly deep. Of all the things you've ever said, I have to say that's the deepest one of all.
Besides trying to fill up a butterball. Anyway,
you have such a strain of consciousness. It's almost hard to tell when you're finished. Yeah, I don't know. Using the Emergency Act on people, of course, if your charter's like anything like our Constitution, of course, it's violating your rights as a people. People have the right to gather and protest, okay? Nothing gets done unless people are able to complain. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? That sort of train of thought. So this whole we're gonna mount forces up against you and silence you. Well, that's tyranny. Okay, that's just basic. I think anybody with any political awareness knows this. So yeah, I mean, you have to take a session. Take a note. Take a page out of the book. Take from the U.S. All right, you want to crack down on people's rights, you have to commit false flag terrorism. Okay, this is not a terroristic event. Okay, I mean, this is why they have these plants and these rallies, Black Lives Matter, whoever, to do violent stuff, so then they can then get their dogs, their police dogs out, their obedient little domestic soldiers, to put against you. Like, you're the criminal. So, I mean, it all makes me sick. It all makes me sick to my stomach. Yeah, emergency acts. Well, you know what? We, the people, are the ones that should be in charge of the emergency acts, okay? Gathering together to say no to the government on some BS, that's an emergency act. If somebody in the government needs to be overthrown, well, then I say as long as there's enough people to get the job done, then let it be done. These governments should not be protecting themselves in the way that they do. Government offices, government buildings should not have these giant fences and guards, police dogs. I mean, if you're not housing sensitive national security information, then yeah, you don't need any of that. You should be accessible to the public if we want to get rid of you. If you're a politician, you don't get to call in the National Guard, Army, whatever military police force to protect yourself. These services are supposed to work for the people as well. Okay? The government wants to do all these false flag, shootings, whatever, from these MK Ultra people, targeted individuals. No, guns are dangerous. We got to crack down on them. No. You just, as a politician, you're scared because you know you're doing wrong behind closed doors. You know that people don't like you, seeing the results of your politics, and you're scared somebody's going to put a freaking bullet in your head. As a politician, as a government official, so that you can feel safe and walk about like a dictator, a king. You have to take away other people's rights to defend themselves or speak for themselves or whatever. That's crap. The way things are running right now, everything's ass backwards. We should have emergency state powers. We should be the ones to make makeshift militias when time calls for it. We should be the one saying who it's okay to be our representatives, who should actually be speaking for us instead of coming up with their own agendas, lining their pockets. But I don't know. You just need enough people who are pissed off enough to go and take on whatever the issues are. And I'm happy that there are people around the world that are doing it. So hopefully more and more. It's got to get to the point, and it's going to get worse before it gets any better. It's got to get to the point where every person on the streets is disgruntled and wants to do something about what's going on. It's not going to matter how many tanks they roll out in the streets. It's not going to matter they shut down the power grid. It's not going to matter they shut off the gas lines, the water. It's not going to matter. So we people rise up in force to go and take on what needs to be taken on. But yeah, no, you Canadians, you didn't justify your action there. Your government didn't justify it quite well enough. Not like how the United States does it. You should be happy about that, though. With that, I'll turn over to Erson.
I remember a Q post that came out, and it was watch CA. The natural inclination of anybody would be, oh, watch California. And don't get me wrong, California's turned into a fucking shit show. My God. Gavin, I have a pedophile symbol on one of my social media sites. Newsom, yeah. One of my favorite cities that I will never visit, San Francisco, because there's an app to tell you where, for you to be able to avoid the biological little landmines, the potential turd blossoms, to use a George W. Bush Texas term. But when the trucker convoy started and it gained traction and it became a movement and the world took notice and went, oh, that's right. These things can mean other things as well. There's the immediate obvious, but sometimes, or enough of the time, there's something below the surface, or you have to connect the dots on your own, or whatever the case may have been. And I suppose at the end of the day, like father, surrogate, or step, or whatever, like the idiot's son. Now, I was reminded of this, is that when the alleged father was in power, and this is before I was born, Naroki would have been about 2 or 3, maybe 4, about 3 years old. Blissfully ignorant Canada had the FLQ problem. And what was going on at the time, and it was called the Wartime Measures Act, is that there was a terrorist group within Quebec that was doing bombings and kidnappings, and there was one person that was killed. He was held hostage. A public figure, if I remember correctly. I don't remember what the exact details are. Now, good old Daddy Trudeau basically said, I'm going to invoke the War Measures Act. And I think it was a CBC reporter at the time basically said, no, you can't do that. He just said, just watch me. And then he shuffled off. He had a bit of a jump in his step to his car, and that was it. And sure as shit, he did it. He promised what he was going to do. And I think it was for about 5 days. I don't remember. So, during non-wartime emergencies, the precedent has been set. And what was it? I was re-listening to Viva Fry, and he was going over the whole thing as well too. And it came down to it, is that it was supposed to only be a 2-day protest in Ottawa. Ended up being 3 weeks. And were the truckers going anywhere? No. Was it violent? Strangely, no, it wasn't. It was the atypical Canadian stereotype going to full effect. And like there were centers for the kids to play in. People were providing food or liquids, whatever the case may have been, for other people. And I mean, if there was something like that where I was going on, I would probably participate as well too. I probably would have hit the superstore closest to me and bought, say, 2 or 3 jumbo packages of hot dogs, 39 hot dogs, and gotten the bread or the buns or the condiments or whatever. Like, hey, I got more food. Let's feed some people. And it was allegedly a very peaceful, happy, positive place to be. Now, there were some people in Ottawa, and there always will be, well, I couldn't sleep, and this and that, the other thing, and I just wanted to end. Yeah, I get it. Don't worry, they're not coming for me. I'm fine for now. But, as I said earlier, well, I'm not going to meet with these people because I don't agree with their protest. Yeah, it's because they're telling you to go fuck yourself. Oh, sorry. You need to go Elon Musk yourself. And with Pretty Boy's fucking fragile ego, and it doesn't take very much for that to be bruised or otherwise, he took it personally. And again, the allegation is that he fucking hightailed it out, flew on a public plane out to Vancouver Island and to hide out until things were dealt with and whatever else. I mean, hell, I felt violated, and I am about a nonstop drive from here to Ottawa is probably about, can do it in about 2.5 to 3 days. Now, keep in mind, folks, the Trans-Canada Highway, the Highway 1, going from Vancouver, I suppose in a sense, onto Vancouver Island. Let's just say from Vancouver across the country, dipping into Ontario just enough to get into Toronto or the Toronto area, and then goes up through Ottawa and continues along the east coast. It is the largest highway in the world. And again, the truckers, when they got through, it was either Saskatchewan, no, it was Manitoba. They picked up enough truckers going from Vancouver to Ottawa. The trucker convoy was bigger than the width on the Highway 1, the Trans-Canada Highway, that there was, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes on both ends, the front end and the back end. And it crossed through, it covered Manitoba, going into Ontario, and the tail end was still in Saskatchewan. That's pretty fucking big. And there was the deliberation, and we talked about it and debated, and it wasn't made lightly. Oh, fucking bullshit, Christia. Sorry, Krista. Fucking idiot. I mean, that's a fucking stripper's name. And she's the farthest thing from a stripper. Outside of stripping her rights, but anyway.
Wow.
I'm sure the debate was
distracted there. I got a little distracted. You got violated and you took it on both ends? What happened?
Well, I'm not asking you to violate me on both ends, V. I assure you. Don't worry. No homo points here. Sorry, no homo suspicion points here.
Okay.
The pathetic excuse of a deputy PM that we have here in Canada, it's worse than the press secretary for the White House. And she has enough fucking red flags or blue flags or check marks or whatever that she's questionable to begin with. Anyway, I'm sure that this whole debate behind closed doors was about 5 minutes of, no, I'm pretty sure it was like, okay, well, we got to shut those fucking truckers down. What do we got? What options do we have? Well, we can do this. Blah, blah, blah. Anybody have anything to say about this one? No. What about this? Blah, blah, blah. Anybody? No. Well, you can vote the Wartime Measures Act. And what's that going to do? This, and this. Anybody going to argue? Nope. Okay, great. Next. Okay, break and everybody get drunk. I'm sure that's what the debate was. Probably about that quick. Can't prove it, but I wouldn't be surprised. And at the time when it was going on, Rocky and I were we were quite vocal. And we knew that it violated almost everything it violated enough of the Canadian Charter rights. Now, the one thing that the Charter rights does not have that the American Constitution has is the use of the word inalienable or inalienable rights. I wish we had it, but we don't, at least not yet. So now, after 3 or 4 ethics commission violations, but don't do a damn thing, and that is taking advantage of the general populace that has the attention span of a goldfish when it comes to anything related to politics. I'm just as bad as anybody else, and there are certain things that I do remember. And there are a lot of things that I probably don't. I may have forgotten, but I don't remember. So, for now, and I don't think it's really going to matter at this point whether if the appeal goes through the court system, I won't be surprised if somehow it gets overturned in some higher court, however that may be. But it wouldn't take much for Poilievre to keep driving that point home wherever and whenever possible to keep reminding Canadians of, well, yeah, he was initially found guilty, he was found innocent, but I can assure you, I'm going to keep reminding you that he violated your fucking rights. You won't say that word specifically, but it'll come down to something like that. So, ultimately, for the collective consciousness of Canadians, I mean, all it's going to take is, hey, do you want to have your bank account frozen by the government? Do you want to protest, but you're afraid of this, or this, or this? Yeah, well, that's what the Liberals did. And that's what the Liberals did under Trudeau. Don't forget that. It could be something as easy, relatively speaking, as that. It could be something more innocuous. I don't know. But that's all
Pierre,
I'm going to say on this one. So
that guy's very smart.
Okay.
He's very interesting. There's a really funny video. I don't know if you ever saw it, but he's eating an apple and he's talking to this reporter, and the reporter keeps asking him really stupid questions. Like, what do you mean by that? What does that mean?
In terms of your strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean, certainly you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing. I mean, it's that type of ideological spectrum.
I never really talk about left or right.
Okay. A lot of people say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but...
Like who?
I don't know who, but...
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
You must know somebody.
Okay.
Joe Rogan, welcome to my show. So, what do you think about the current government in Canada?
Communist hole in Canada. Yeah. What they've done up there, what they did with the trucker rally, and what Trudeau's doing with guns, and what they're trying to clamp down on censorship on the internet, that guy can eat shit. Like, that place needs 100% an overhaul of government. Like, they're sliding down that dangerous road of communism that scares the shit out of me.
I thought I was going to make it through this, but I'm not.
Oh, I'll be okay. Jag Meat will give you a hug. Jag Meat!
Your homophobia is great.
Oh, fuck. Joe Rogan.
Okay, hold on.
Let's
Let me
move
get
on.
the timestamp before we move on. And you're going first on that one, by the way.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know, so I was vocal against it.
Okay, so the next one, I will let Rearson go first on this because and then it will be V and then it will be me. Because this is a strange situation where I honestly really didn't care. But anyway, let's get this one started. So Rearson, take it away.
So, with the UFC fight, and there was the chant of, and it started funny enough, it started with basically the trucker convoy of fuck Trudeau. And apparently Trudeau's kid, Xavier, was actually at the UFC, event. Now, I don't know what he thinks of his dad. I'm hoping that he hasn't been violated by his dad. No fucks given. Wouldn't be surprised if he was. But it was on a Rogan podcast of, that Poilievre guy. Like, he gave his endorsement of the candidate. Now, right now, we're not in election, at least not yet. So what he said, well, I can't completely disagree with, and I've softened my tone, but in Canada, there's legislation in place that someone of a foreign nationality cannot interfere during an election process. Now, this was violated by Michael Moore. And at the time, I was living in Canmore, and it was, it would have been about 2001, 2002, somewhere around there. And he was telling the Canadians to not vote for Harper. Looking back, I completely agree with the rhetoric that was coming out from Ottawa at the time, and to be pushing back against Michael Moore. Now, whether or not there still is a warrant for his arrest if he comes into Canada, no, quite possibly. I don't know. But it was during an election. He said, don't vote for Harper. And they basically said, shut the fuck up and we'll arrest you. Now, I don't think he's actually stepped foot in Canada since. Not sure, don't know, don't care. While I'm not disagreeing with Joe Rogan's ability to say what he wants to say or needs to say, whatever the case may be, when he's bashing Trudeau, I think that's about where he needs to that's about as far as it should go. If he supports the guy, maybe he needs to bring him on as a guest, either in person or whatever the case may be. I don't know yet. But I felt that as much as I not like him, but I respect him, Rogan, I really felt that there was a line that he crossed over by indirectly telling Canadians, look at this guy, you guys need to vote for this guy. Don't get me wrong. Like, he won't come into Canada because of how much of a shithole it's turned into. He won't do anything more than he has to, because until basically Canada gets its shit together. and it becomes the country that it used to be, which was, I suppose, a supportive middle power. And that's really about the best that we were, and I think that's about the best we should have been anyway. So I was really critical of Greta Thunberg, when she was here during the 2019 election, and she was playing up the fucking crowd. But now that I know more about her and her autistic fucking family, she's a figurehead that works in one form or another. My opinion is that under the Soros tentacled umbrella. And everything that she did should have, and she should have been arrested, but because of the penetration of the Trudeau government, you know I'm talking about, Klaus Schwab, nothing fucking happened to her. So at this point now, you could have 1,000 Greta Thunbergs and that Pakistani girl that has a glass eye, whatever the case may be. You could have 1,000 of them each, and it won't be enough to. I think we're past that point, that it won't make any bit of difference. But again, my feeling is that if Rogan's going to say anything, say it against the leader that's the person in charge, not the person you would like to be in charge. So I'll just leave it at that. So V, if you have anything to say, by all means, jump in. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too opinionated on this one, so I'm kind of like Hiroki on this one. I don't know. What do you think, Hiroki?
Okay, well,
what should I be taking away from this topic?
What me personally, I mean, Rearson has a point. Canada and the U.S. are pretty closely tied together. Strangely enough, at the time that Michael Moore made that statement about why did I just blank out about his name? He was only the Prime Minister Harper, yeah. The Harper before Trudeau. I actually agreed with Michael Moore at that time. I cannot believe that I'm actually sentimental. This is just part of my process. I mean, I cannot believe, first of all, I cannot believe I actually respect Ezra Levant. I cannot believe I'm actually sort of like cheering for Conrad Black. I cannot believe I'm like, I would actually, and this is an absolutely stellar shock, because I mean, he was massively unpopular. Like, I mean, the 93 election, I mean, he took the Conservatives from a majority party down to just 2 seats in the National House. And that was Brian Mulroney.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like, I would take Brian Mulroney over Justin Trudeau. Actually, I would definitely take Ben Mulroney had enough brains not to get into politics. I will say that much about Ben Mulroney. Ben Mulroney is a bit of a media stooge, works for CTV, has usually gone out of his way to avoid saying overtly political stuff. Good on him. I would probably prefer him as Prime Minister over Justin Trudeau. I don't think Ben will ever run for political office, though. I think he saw what happened to his dad. He doesn't want that to happen to him. The whole situation is just... Yeah, okay, Americans can have, and we for instance, we freely have an opinion about the U.S. when the U.S. has its elections. So, I mean, I don't have an issue with Americans having an opinion on what's going on in Canada. And again, I've said this. I think this is the third time I said this tonight. Things have gotten so unstable in Canada that the Americans are actually starting to notice. And that's not necessarily a good thing. Well, I mean, for instance, the province that both me and Rierson live in, is on the verge, is actually, and I've told people from Quebec this, the percentage of people in Alberta that want to leave Confederation is actually, in terms of percentages, it's larger than the percentage that live in Quebec, that's in Quebec right now.
Still waiting to vote.
Yeah,
I'm still waiting to vote on that.
So the whole issue here is, and here's the unique situation, because I don't think there's any other country in the world that has this particular issue, is that usually the richest part of the country also happens to be where the capital area is. Canada is one of the few nations in the world where the richest part of the country is not the capital area. I mean, it has the most people, it has the most money, but Alberta is the place where that's working out the most. I'm almost tempted to. You remember that Canada Monopoly board game that I sent you on? Yeah, I'm almost tempted to.
I had it, actually.
What?
I had it as a board game.
No, I'm talking about the one that video that I sent you.
Oh God.
Sorry. You can't remember?
No, I don't.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, yeah,
Anyway.
okay. I'm actually looking for it right now. Because I know I sent it to you.
Well, okay, you don't have to send it to me right now, but as we're moving through the topics, if you can find it, send it to me. Of course, great, no problem.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll have to go looking for it here. It doesn't. Oh my God! I got it to the part where V sent me that photo of. No, that was you sending me that photo of Meatball in a fucking bikini. That was, yeah, I'm actually kind of losing the contents of my stomach looking at that one. I am not.
Wait, what did I send you?
No. It wasn't you that sent it. It was Rierson that sent it to me.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, if you want to see some unbelievable things, just let me know.
No, I haven't.
I think the two of us want to retain the contents of our stomach where they are currently right now. I love you, man, but.
Oh well, I'll find it and I'll send it to you. I know I sent it to you on. I know I sent it to you on Telegram. Yeah, I know I sent it to you on Telegram.
Okay.
But yeah, it's Alberta is the financial hub.
Linchpin. We're the linchpin.
Yeah, which is kind of strange when you consider the fact that I can't fucking find it. I cannot find it. Where the hell is it? Yeah, no, it's the Canada Monopoly game. And no, it's not the Canada. It was a comic video. And I cannot.
How far back did you send it?
No, it wasn't that long ago, because I actually got a like on Facebook about it just a couple of weeks ago. Just a few days ago. But yeah, I cannot, for the likes of me, I cannot find it.
It's before Merry Christmas. Let's see here.
Anyway, you know, I don't have a dog in this fight. Rearson does have a point in this regard, but I mean, no, I don't have a big, huge. I don't have a lot invested in this. I'm fully expecting there's going to be more than a few Americans that are going to have a say, because they, like I said, we now have the attention of the Americans, which is something that you know, might not necessarily be a good thing.
But, hey, we got our own problems over here. We got our own clown government, clown act circus.
Oh, I don't know what's worse, the one you've got or the one we've got. I mean, Trudeau is just an arrogant prick, right?
He's an arrogant prick. Well, he's an arrogant airhead prick, and the Americans have to deal with someone who needs the memory rock once in a while. Well, at least once a day. So well, take your pick.
It's the same people that's controlling Biden that's controlling Trudeau. So
what's the penetration of the Trudeau government? Yes, I know.
You know, it's somewhere. I can't find it right now, and maybe if one of you goes off on a long spiel, maybe I'll be able to find it, but I can't find it right now. So we're going to move on to the next topic here, which is the 50-year-old transgender swimmer.
Ranking Member Lee, if my testimony makes me transphobic, then I believe your opening monologue makes you a misogynist. Thank you.
Jesus fucking Christ. Okay,
so 50-year-old, and by the way, this also got some play down in the U.S. 50-year-old transgender swimmer by the name of Susan Weishart, Melody Weishart, decided that he was going to compete at a trophy tournament against 13, 14, 15-year-old girls. He was using the women's change room to get changed, was making all the women uncomfortable. He finished second, so he couldn't even beat 13, 14, 15-year-old girls. The bottom of the line is that this particular tournament allowed him to compete again, right? Because like Leah Thomas is like someone is bankrolling Leah Thomas's lawsuit against the IOC to allow him to compete against women at the Olympic Games. And there has to be somebody bankrolling that, because I can't see Leah Thomas having the money to do it himself. The whole situation was just, I mean, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And again, right, I've said this more than a few times, right? The whole situation is going to reach the point where, you know, like potentially as early as this June, it's going to get really violent, right? Like the transgender community is being told under no uncertain terms to leave the fucking kids alone, and they won't do it. Not only are they not doing it, but they're continuously trying to sneak stuff by the parents, and it's not going over very well, for obvious reasons. And you know, and then of course you've got stuff like this, and let's not forget that shop teacher too, by the way, That also
that
happened.
one. Yeah.
It's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's like, yeah, no, it's at the point, and the fact of the matter is that a 50-year-old man shouldn't be competing against 13, 14, 15-year-old girls, period. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that they are doing it, and it's not going to go very well because there's just going to be a tipping point. And once that tipping point is reached, it's not going to matter anymore because, well, I mean, look at what's going on. We've got a topic on the show today. It's going to be the next topic here, where Alberta is passing the same sort of bill that Saskatchewan passed a few months ago around gender pronouns, and the teachers have to notify the parents if anybody under 16 tries to change their pronouns, right? And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And like, I mean, this is not a particularly big topic, but I mean, we start getting into all of the previous violations, and the way Billboard Chris is being attacked, and the fact that the Calgary mayor and the Calgary City Council had to run block for transgender story time here, and the fact that you actually, and again, it happened here in Alberta first, you actually had a member of the school council in Red Deer put her foot down and say, no, you've been told repeatedly to say that. And basically, they tried running her out, but this is Redneck, right? Redneck Alberta, otherwise known as Red Deer, where she actually more or less told the transgender community, no, like, you're not doing this. And it's more and more people are putting their foot down. Like I ran into a discussion just before I came on tonight where it's like, it's like when somebody was asking the open question, like, when you see the rainbow flag now, what do you think? And it's reached the point now for me that when I see that flag, I just assume that person's just going to be an intolerant leftist. And it's gone from being, oh, what a nice colorful looking flag, to, you know what, you really need to fucking stop shoving it down everybody's fucking throat, right? You wanted to be left alone, you got left alone. Like, no, I am not going to celebrate your sexuality. I don't have to. I don't need to. I don't want to. And, this stuff just keeps going. I mean, we were talking just a couple of weeks ago about how the WEF is talking about exporting this to the third world because, at least in the area of sports, the third world just keeps seeing this and going to the international sports commissions and going, no, we're not gonna participate in this, and like, these transgenders are not able to push past the national level. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Well, Naoki, isn't it always going to be an issue about the tipping point?
Probably.
Depends if you're going to be going into a whale, a land whale, or a butterball. Just saying.
It doesn't matter what you do with it.
It's the size that counts.
Well,
you're probably giggling right now. That's okay. I got it.
Well, people are putting their foot down so they don't have to put their tip down.
Oh. Something shit inside my body, and not in a good way. Anyway.
Well, I kind of have to look at this like, you have an open society where people are free to be who they are and what they do. But you have events and in these events, they have class systems to make it more appropriate and even for people participating to have a fair chance at being successful in their divisions, league, whatever, what have you. But I kind of think, 100 years ago, things weren't as equal, if we can use that terminology, as they are today. It kind of makes me think, because today there's some old people around waving their fist at minorities. We should have never gave you rights. To whatever group. They're probably angry about it. But then again, you have some old people from that time, those eras. They're like, oh my gosh, I love these people. And they fully assimilate to the idea of, having that equality. It just makes me think, 50 years from now, when 1 out of 3 people are transgendered and has other futuristic mutilations to their bodies, how are we going to look at them? Are our minds going to change? Are we going to accept these individuals? Are we going to come to some acknowledgement of our bigotry and change? I mean, dude, you go from all-white team or all-white league. You have an all-black team, all-black league. Nobody wants to see that because everybody's going to be watching the Black League. Sorry, guys. Just a tad bit more athletic. Just like, so, I mean, you have these divisions. You see what people want to see, right? Nobody's going to the WNBA, right? So, I mean, it's participation that really says everything. What are you going to watch? What are you going to be seeing? What do you enjoy? So, I don't know. I think everybody should be catered to. So, I don't know. Why not just have a league of league of freaks? I don't know. Humpbacks, bearded women's, transgender, tattooed people. I don't know. Just a mishmash league. Like Smash Brothers. Everybody competes against everybody. Screw it. But still keep our traditional institutions, right? See which one to get watched more. See which one to be supported more. I don't know. Sorry. That's just a stream of consciousness. I had no real point. But go ahead.
There's a woman that I follow on Telegram, and she's in the Red Deer area. And she's been saying for quite a while of how when you can see the signs, you can see how strong the local Freemason chapter is. And she's admitted as well, too, is that her daughter was almost human trafficked. And apparently she doesn't sound feminine only because of puberty blockers. And if and when the time comes that I have my show on V's network, I'm going to try to get her to actually be my first guest. Now, I haven't said anything to her about this, but that's what's going to the back of my head. Now, can I fully get behind what she's saying when it comes to, because she's going on about the Alberta Teachers Association Treasury Fund or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. I looked at it earlier today. And they're trying to push the message, the agenda, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not really doing anything at this point to push against it because I got a lot of other things on my plate right now. And at the end of the day, my son knows that he's a boy. He's attracted to females, but as I've said before, they scare him. And for good fucking reason. Puberty hasn't really fully hit him at this point. And as far as I can tell, I'll have to take a look at his phone one of these days. But I don't think he's got any adult content on it, but it's only a matter of time until that happens. And I fully acknowledge that. Having been called a conspiracy theorist by my spouse, with the basically at the height of the whole COVID thing, C-19 in 1984, whatever you want to call it. And also, again, with my other half, getting my son jabbed against his own wishes. She did it anyway, twice, would have done it a third time, and if she could have, she probably would have done it a fourth time. So my balls have been ripped out of me in the household, and I'm not in any rush to reestablish it because I gave up. I give up. Now, trying to get out of this fucking place, things aren't working out because for reasons X, Y, or Z, whatever the case may be, and that's fine. Now, if I start to see more overt signs, it might finally light a bit of a fire under my ass to actually do something about it. For now, I've got my current job, which I'm not terribly happy with. I know that there are bigger things coming for me, but I have to get myself prepared and aligned for it, which I'm not doing. And I admit it. So I'm going to start looking into other directions that my life needs to go into for me to find some sort of sense of satisfaction and happiness.
Get an RV.
And you're not part of it, man. Love you, but you're not part of it. Anyway, am I going to be keeping an eye on for what's going on within the province? Well, I will, only if it comes through a Telegram channel. And right now, there's only going to be one outlet that's going to be able to provide that kind of information. The woman that I mentioned before. And as long as my son is not touched on his ass by one of his male teachers, which is something that has actually did happen to me. It only happened once, and it's something I have not forgotten. I haven't spoken about it, but I haven't forgotten about it. If anything like that is going to happen to him, I assure you, there is going to be a fire that is going to... I won't have a fire lit under my ass. It's going to be a fucking raging inferno. And I will feel sorry for the teacher that's going to do that. And I don't want to do that. Just like Bill Bixby said, don't make me angry. You won't like me when I'm angry. And it's honestly not far from the truth. So I am completely in support of that, whether or not the Alberta Teachers Association, Union, whatever they have to say anything about it, that's going to be against it. You know what? I don't freaking care. I don't care. Because at this point now, it's the teachers and the teachers. Well, it's not necessarily the teachers, but it's the teachers union that's really starting to push this. So I have to wonder how many pedophiles are within that organization. Female and male. And both sexes. One sex is not not less inclined, but one sex is not less guilty of being just as bad as the other. So we'll see. I hope it doesn't come to it. But then again, from what I've been seeing on other channels, and it's been talked about on Telegram and whatever else, is that to get rid of these kind of people, ordinary citizens will have to step up. And again, I'm going to have to take a page from Knights of the Old Republic 2, Kreia. She's the main support character who ends up being a badass. But she said that my voice does not carry the sway, it doesn't have the influence, it doesn't have the charisma. So I already know that people won't listen to me. So unfortunately, I just have to sit and wait until something starts to happen, and then I will give my voice to that cause. So we will see. And I don't have much more to say on this one. So if we're all done, let's move on to number 6.
Hold on. So I have another thing here. So I don't know. I think it's weird that. Okay, maybe I shouldn't say it's weird. It's
what?
It's surprising to me because, like, okay, so you have the transgendered people, right? And they immediately want to get into normal activities with your cis population, your normal population. Again, I have the idea of divisions and classes and sports and things like that, but why not make? I mean, it would be more acceptable to society to have that function work for society in some way. So if you're going to make yourself transgender, then being transgender should offer you some benefits somewhere. I don't know. They create a red light district for horny teenage boys to practice on before they get with a real girl. For example.
Oh my God! I'm gonna fucking throw up.
I'm not saying it has to be prostitution, but that's just the first example that came to mind. They need to offer some sort of service that is of value to society, so they can submit themselves and move forward. But they're not doing that.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to ask my son if there was someone looks female and it gets down to it, it's a chick with a dick. Would you go through with it? I'm basically going to ask him the question. He's probably going to say no because he already does like fat chicks. So I got yeah, and a hole's a hole. As long as it's not my hole that's being violated, I don't really care. Whether it's top or bottom.
I always think about that Dave Chappelle skit. Oh, you man, about mouth. Anyways,
he's not wrong. He's not wrong, and I heard that about almost 30 years ago. Not quite 30 years ago. And I'm pretty sure that the guy that said that to me was probably bisexual, and that's probably why that he was divorced at the time. Anyway. Anywho, I think we're done with this one, Rookie. Unless you want any last comments before we move on.
No,
3,
we're done.
2.
Hello, yeah, I'm here. Can anybody hear me? My mic's not my mic's not muted, so okay.
No, you're fine, man. You're fine.
Okay, so let's move on to the next topic here. This one is really interesting. Because Daniel Smith appeared to be kind of waffling. Everybody was going why isn't Daniel Smith doing this in Alberta? And everybody was going, well, yeah, she appears to be waffling on this. And I don't know why she didn't do it immediately, but she didn't. And this is the pronoun bill, the one that specifically states that I believe it's a child under 16 cannot change their pronouns without informing the parents. The NDP and what Rearson was just talking about, the Teachers Federation were fighting, like brutally fighting, to prevent this bill from going through. It should be duly noted. I mean, like, why would the Teachers Federation be doing that? And that's another one of those moments. You weren't around yesterday, V, when we were talking about that BlackRock official getting exposed for having her name. We're talking somebody who sits on the board of BlackRock, and sure, her name was linked. Her email was linked to a very nasty pedophile website.
Hero 121.
Yeah, Hero 121, and and the way they reacted brought out a response, because it's BlackRock and the way BlackRock was responding, and then that response had a cascading effect in a lot of different areas, which included some stuff you wouldn't and I didn't think about when I first started out. But once my brain started clicking in, it started to make a lot of sense. Like, all of those media outlets that attacked Sound of Freedom, how many of those media outlets are controlled by BlackRock? The way the media went quiet on Balenciaga, right? That's another one. Who's funding the Leah Thomas lawsuit against the IOC? And it just went, And this is the same sort of thing. Like, teachers were supposed to be the front line. I mean, yeah, teachers were supposed to be the front line of defense against abusive parents. It was the job of the teachers to, if it wasn't for the elementary school teachers bringing this to my attention when I was in elementary school, I would not have figured out that there was something wrong with the way my family was set up. They didn't know the right questions to ask. And if they had known the right questions to ask, they probably would have yanked me out of that house that I was in. But it's like, why? And this is another one of those moments. Like, why were the teachers in Saskatchewan so vehemently opposed to this? They're supposed to be protecting the kids from people like this. And the same sort of thing. And I mean, it took Danielle Smith a little bit longer, but they're going to do the same thing in Alberta around pronouns that they did in Saskatchewan. They're going to pass the pronouns bill. It's going to be either 16 or 17. Teenagers will not be able to change their pronouns without the parents being informed, which, by the way, is something that is starting to sweep all over North America now, at least in quote-unquote red states and whatever. It is going to eventually, even in blue states, there are going to be, for instance, a lot of people think California is just this big, huge, massive blue state. What they don't know a lot about California is that the Inland Empire of California is actually fairly conservative. And I have to imagine they're not particularly pleased with what the governor has been doing in Sacramento, and will start passing local ordinances that overrule the state ones. So, I mean, even in blue states, you're going to start seeing the rural areas pass local ordinances that are around pronouns. So this is something that is starting to take off. But here's the thing, right? Like, the fact that the teachers are so vehemently opposed, like and the public sector unions are so vehemently opposed to parents telling the state to leave their kids alone. right? It's like they seem to think that they've got the right, like, oh, well, they're not your kids. And it's sort of like, well, actually, they are my kids and not my kids. I don't have any children, but I would want my children to have my values and my morals, not the ones taught by a 55-year-old cross-dressing pedophile in social studies, or somebody wearing a massively disproportionate boob suit to teach
set of fake tits. Yeah.
All of that sort of thing. I mean, I don't want you having, and that's, by the way, is just transgenders. That doesn't, and this is something that has kind of gotten lost in all this. You also got female teachers that are just misandric, man-hating fucks who will knowingly discriminate against the boy students in their class because they hate fucking men. That's also an issue that has to be dealt with, and that's not being dealt with. But yeah, Daniel Smith is going to be introducing the same type of parental bill in Alberta that they did in Saskatchewan. It's not really all that big of a surprise that that's happening. I'm already seeing stuff on Twitter on, various teachers unions and whatever coming out to protest this. And of course, it's not going to work, but they're going to try and do it anyway. Specifically down both this Calgary and Edmonton in particular. And it's like they said at the start of 2023 that you were going to start to see some pushback against LGBTQ, and now that pushback is becoming very obvious, and the press doesn't know, which is, by the way, why they took that run at when they've taken that runs at Rumble and Twitter so far this year. Which is why, because the mainstream media just doesn't have the credibility that it once did. I mean, I don't know whether it's as bad as what Pravda was in the old Soviet bloc, but it's getting there very, very quickly. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of takes me back a little bit. So when I went to school, it's constantly moving, right? Constantly moving, neighborhood, city to city, constantly moving. So I would get nicknames, like cool nicknames, and they would, it would really stick, and people will know me by certain names. And I even have, a few family nicknames. And so, it would confuse the teachers of what I wanted to be called and what my name was. I know one teacher had called my house, called my parents, and asked them what I was supposed to be called. My parents weren't having bull crap. They said, you better call him by his government name. What does it say on the paper? Yeah, that's what you call him. My parents weren't having any of that crap. So, why does there need to be a bill? I mean, the parents should have the final say, bill or no bill, until that child is 18. In a professional setting, yeah, absolutely. In an institutionalized setting, yes. It's not some club that you get to be a part of, some gang, and have all these different identities. Do that on your own time. But if you're in an institution, then you need to use your institutional name. Pronouns, rank, position, title. All is there for a reason, to provide structure, to provide, the ability to operate, to function within society. I don't know. I mean, I know how people feel. Some days I identify as a orange-flavored Flintstone push pop. You think I've been telling anybody that? No, it's silly, and it's
well, we already knew that about you anyway. So I mean,
I'm not coming across the border to sample your flavors. Let me put it that way.
Oh man, it's all natural too.
I'm still not crossing.
I give you the necessary calories, vitamins, and minerals that you need, especially some protein.
God, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be sick. Save it for the land wills, my friends. Save it for them.
Ire me, Captain Ahab. Can I say one thing about BlackRock? I need to demystify this, because you guys are pushing this like it's just the biggest global conspiracy. But there's no magic in the breakdown, I promise you. Okay, BlackRock is just an investment firm, a very successful investment firm, if not the most successful investment firm. It takes clients and makes investments for those clients. Okay. BlackRock as a company will buy and do their own investing, yes. But if you actually go and research the numbers, you're talking 2 to 3%. Rare cases, 5-7%, whatever. And this is done to show income investors that this is a safe bet, right? That's a safe bet. And also, it's kind of, they play a position to be called upon if there's, I don't know, something going on with the company, they need to vote, and they would be called in as, I guess, the tiebreaker. That's how that operates. It's not BlackRock making decisions. It's BlackRock backing up decisions of others. So it's like going to McDonald's and your order gets messed up and you call corporate. No, you need to contact the franchise owner. That's who's responsible. So I know it seems a little confusing, but there's really no magic in that breakdown. But anyhow, pass it on to Rarison.
All right. I actually have to take a step back here because I'm sorry, man. I ended up jumping the topics here, so it kind of makes some sense. 50-year-old transgender swam against teens in Barrie. Oh, fuck's sakes. Seriously. Well, I'm assuming that the guy was at least wearing something over his crotch and his potentially leather ass. I mean, is this another case of well, I mean as Don Jr. had said about the whole thing with the whole Liam Thomas thing, give him one or two Viagra, see how well he swims. See how well he swims without the trunks on to keep it all in place. I mean, I know that the Pride Parade here in Calgary fucking bothered me because there were 50-plus-year-old men that were, quote, nudists that were walking around in front of kids and with the parents that brought the kids down to the parade. And under other circumstances, those guys would have been fucking, they would have been hauled in and thrown in the fucking slammer for indecent exposure. Now, it kind of seems a little bit off topic here and whatever else, but I mean, really, I don't think that I'm that far off from, I can't say the truth, but from what I see to be a big fucking problem. And if you think that I'm supportive of the Calgary City Council, I assure you I am not. It's a hate crime to go towards these likely cross-dressing pedophiles that are reading to kids in the public libraries. No, I only go to the public libraries here in Calgary for me to be able to study and to be able to at least get out of my fucking apartment for a little while. And I've seen what was the latest thing that they had down there? Some two-spirit sort of, well, pardon my ignorance, but some two-spirit kind of bullshit thing for people to become more informed of, or to have, to become more informed, more aware of. Bullshit. No, maybe the indigenous communities across North America may have a better understanding or integration. There we go. May have a better integration of these physical meat suits, whatever you want to call them, that might identify better with being male and female or whatever else. I remember, what the hell was there, that native porn star's name? Hypatia Lee, something like that. And I remember her actually talking about this. So there was some lending of credence or some level of exposure from a long enough time ago. I guess back in porn's golden age. But again, I mean, this is a 50-year-old. I think the only reason why that he won second place, he probably realized that he wasn't. If he completely dominated it, he already looked like an asshole to begin with. But he would have been a complete asshole had he gotten first place with every event that he competed in. Now, I really do wish that we could fire on sight for people like this. We can't yet. And I won't deny that I would love for that to be the case. And it will come down to is the majority, well, it's not so much the majority of the gun holders would win. And pardon me for sounding like a final solution sort of an individual as it's been brought to my attention. Thanks, Fee. But hey, my sense of humor is pretty damn good. I can point fingers at myself and I can point fingers at you as well too. But what was it? Eddie Murphy. Sorry?
As long as you're just fingers.
The movie, I think it was Harlem Nights. And Eddie Murphy was saying to Arsenio Hall, it doesn't matter how many guns you have, it doesn't matter how many. It comes down to it's not how many people you have, it's how well you basically take out your opponent. all it takes is one bullet to take one person down who's the head of whatever organization, and things might crumble, or likely to crumble. I don't know. But not that I'm advocating violence, but at this point in time, at least in Canada, we don't have any sort of repeal on being able to bear arms, although I would like to see that actually happen. I really would. So anyway, to me, this is another individual who was competitive but wasn't good enough to be anything more than a high school intramural athlete at best, and now has the excuse and the platform to try to live out some sense of glory days. And I think that's probably about the best way to say that. So again, Rocky, I apologize for backtracking here and skipping ahead, but I'm at least going to make my thoughts rather clear here. So I got nothing more to say, and I think we're ready to move on to actually topic number 6.
Yep, this is the one I've been waiting for, the one that takes us out.
Yeah.
So, anyway, this is the one I did the most investigating on, mostly because, again, it falls into my area of interest, which is the manosphere and accusations and that sort of. Now, we've covered twice in the past couple of months. We've covered Trevor Bauer, we've covered Matt Areza, who had that faced trial by public opinion in the media, and when they did a closer examination, it turns out that they were both being falsely accused. Now, it's happened again. This time, however, we're talking about an incident that happened 6 years ago in London, Ontario, involving the Canadian national junior team. There are 5 players who have been specifically given leaves of absence from their team to go and deal with this issue. What it effectively evolves down to is that there were these multiples of reporters who got wind of this story, and I don't know how they got wind of this story, but they did, and they just kept fanning the flames on it until the police finally decided to pick the story up. But let me just go back to the beginning. What happened allegedly was that this girl ran into a player from the national, she was 18 at the time, into the national junior team. She ran into him at a bar. She took him back to the hotel room. She had sex with him, and then allegedly she was drunk at the time, and she was still drunk, and then these 5 other guys came in and allegedly forced themselves upon her. Apparently, at the time,
Rocky, you just dropped off from my headset here.
Consent.
Oh, you're back. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No. Suddenly it was connection loss. So yeah. Apparently she was too drunk to give consent. Now, what happened was, and I don't know what happened, but she had got around to filing a complaint with Hockey Canada, and I'm in the realm of speculation here. She threatened a lawsuit against Hockey Canada. Now, what typically happens, because I've seen this happen on domestic abuse cases, and unless you know where to go and what to ask, most lawyers, when they take a look at this situation, don't know the ins and outs of this particular type of a potential lawsuit or criminal case, and they'll go take a look at the evidence, and they will go back to their client, and they will go, I cannot guarantee that we're going to win, so settle. or take the plea or something like that. So what looks, and I got to say, it does look like it may have been an attempt at blackmail situation. Hockey Canada paid this woman out. Apparently, though, either she didn't stay quiet or somebody else didn't stay quiet and went to reporters, and the reporters kept beating the drums until the London RCMP was forced to step in and launch an investigation. And there was apparently enough evidence, or there was enough public pressure being put on them by the media that they couldn't just give it the once over. They had to do the whole 9 yards, and they had to do due diligence. The net result of due diligence is that now the 5 hockey players have to be released from their teams. They have to go to Ottawa with lawyers themselves because the police have to do justifiably so, a proper investigation. And that's currently where it's at. The sports media is just going all over the place, and they're acting like these 5 are guilty without even so much as listening to their guys' side of the story and whatever. But when I started digging even just a little bit, I started seeing inconsistencies right off the bat. And I was talking about this yesterday on 355. The first thing that happened is that they didn't go straight to the police. They went straight to the press. That's red flag number 1. Red flag number 2 is that it started out as consensual sex, and apparently she gave consent to whatever happened afterwards, if anything happened at all. Red flag number 3 is that there was a follow-up, probably involving lawyers, probably involving discussions, which involved a payout, which is basically hush money. Probably paid out because the lawyer for Hockey Canada went back to Hockey Canada and said, yeah, if this goes to trial, I cannot guarantee that we're going to win it. So settle or pay the hush money. And they did. Top point red flag number 5. Well, the reporters who reported on this story don't have an axe to grind. Like, there's none of them that are like dogmatically feminists. And I have to point this out, and this isn't a reason to dismiss them, but if you've already listened to the other red flags, you have to start going, the reporters that have been doing most of the reporting on this are from the CBC. The CBC has also been the ones that have been most on board with the Minister of Sport being backed by you-know-who, that are pushing the concept of masculinity being toxic in the Ministry of Sport in Canada, which is a topic that we have covered on this show in the past, in fact, very recently. And this makes for a very convenient story. So, red flag number 6. It is a politically convenient story, so it's being given a lot of press in the media because it benefits a certain political group politically to do so. So we have got a whole series of, and of course, the woman does not remember. Oh yeah, red flag number 7. The woman does not remember claiming that she was too drunk to give consent, but she consented anyway, and then she changed her mind afterwards. So, and this is and yet another red flag, and this is one that's very dangerous and one that they talk about in the manosphere all the time. And PUAs and red pill dating coach follower guys, you need to pay attention to this one. If you're engaging in a one night stand and you spend the night with the chick, it ain't over, right? What you got to do, the morning after is one, you got to be responsible for all of your condoms, and you got to take them to the bathroom, not the garbage, the bathroom. You have to flush all the condoms, and you have to see all of those condoms going down the toilet. You then have to either get the girl via a recording or sometimes even by an admission that she consented to sleep with you, or at the very least you have to take her out to breakfast afterwards, because if she tries to go to the media or tries to go to the police and say, oh, I was so terrified of the day after, and when he left I hid under my bed and whatever, and it's sort of like, and the police go and look, and you have receipts for breakfast, and you have a video of the two of you snuggling up to each other at a McDonald's or something like that, that's not going to hold up very well. Thing was that she waited, and here's the other one, she waited all of the years, all this time before pushing it again. So you have a long series of red flags. You have a case that very conveniently fits a media narrative that the Trudeau regime in Canada has been trying to push. You have also got a situation where feminists have just been losing so badly, so often, that they're starved for a win, and they need a win really badly. And they're willing to throw I'm not going to say they're innocent, because this might happen, but they're willing to throw 5 people under the bus to get it. And that there are people who are politically motivated enough to get it. Now, is this a unique situation? No, it's not. You want to know why it's not? Because a certain event like this happened back in 2006, otherwise known as the Duke Lacrosse incident. It involved almost the same number of players. It just happened to be, they all happened to be rich kids at a prestigious university. In this case, what you have are 5 well-to-do hockey players with wealth taking advantage of a poor innocent. So yeah, it's a very similar situation, right? So it is an event that is tailor-made for political and social grandstanding. And that is exactly what they're trying to push here. And the media is not going to give any of these hockey players a fair shake. The only difference between this event now and the one that happened back in 2006 is that there's a much more developed manosphere around that will undoubtedly get a hold of one of the lawyers on this defense team and say, yeah, this is what you need to do. Hopefully that lawyer will listen, or one of these players or one of these players' family will listen, and it'll get spread around. This reeks very, very much of Duke Lacrosse Part 2. Very similar sets of circumstances, very dubious claims being made by the victim. Very different. Like, again, you have that status attached to the now professional hockey players that are playing, as opposed to this poor, innocent, traumatized girl who, by the way, Crystal Jane Magnum, at the time of Duke Lacrosse, did the exact same thing. They are doing everything they can to try it in the media. They're also probably going to do everything they can to try to control the media narrative around it at some point when it starts to look like they're going to lose. And what I'm going to say about this is that, based upon if this follows the same track that it did follow in Duke Lacrosse, what's going to happen probably within about a month or two, there's going to be rumors of inconsistencies coming out in the story, and you're going to start seeing certain members of the media start to grandstand and deliberately leave facts out, and that's all going to come back to bite them in the end, which, by the way, is what we saw with Hank Areza and Trevor Bauer. in both of those cases, and in the situation with Duke Lacrosse, you know, none of the reporters in that situation took responsibility for their actions. I have no reason to suspect the same thing is going to happen this time. Now, is this the event that pushes the Manosphere into stage 4? Based upon the feeling that I'm getting, I don't think so. But I'm just going to go back to one of the points I said before. This has the feeling of Duke Lacrosse Part 2. The parties involved are very similar, except, of course, that in this particular case, the woman involved happens to be white and not black. Incidentally, one of the players who was accused is black, as opposed to Duke Lacrosse, where all the players who were accused were white. So yeah, there's that the race element's not there this time, but you have the economic element there. It's not gonna. There is a rape shield law in effect, so we don't know who the accused is going to be, and we probably never will. Which, by the way, is why Tate moved to Romania, so that anybody that tried to accuse him of something like that wouldn't be able to hide behind the rape shield law. And if he hadn't had done that, the accusers in Tate's case would have been able to get away with what they did and not be held accountable. So this woman is going to potentially, I'm not going to say it didn't happen, because maybe it did. But at the same time, right, I'm just seeing a lot of parallels to a case that I mentioned twice before. And if that's the case, you're going to start to see this whole thing start to fall apart over the next 30 to 60 days. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yeah, well, I agree with all that, but I need to add on to it. As a real PUA, there's more to it than protecting yourself as far as evidence and all that. There's more to it. I mean, because it's a fine line between rape and consensual sex because of the psychology of the woman. So a man is always going to be after it. A woman has to decide at any moment's notice that she's willing to accept adult relations. See, a woman has to be seduced. Okay. That seduction, I mean, men will just go into it once they get that, yeah, I got it. And boom, he's in. That level of seduction, that phase of seduction, can wear off rather quickly if you didn't do a good enough job. Hell, it can happen right in the middle of sex. And then it becomes rape. Something I've always done is, you got to get into the head of the girl. You gotta Okay, so for me, what I do is that I have them chase after me. Once I've done the mental seducing, you kind of become a little mysterious, you kind of pull away. And they get curious. That turns them on. They want to come after you. That's one way of doing it. But typically, I make it to where the woman is obsessing about me. So there's going to be infinite amount of text. Where are you at? Where are you at? I want to be with you. Let's do this. It's going to be, your friends are going to see it. It's going to be such an obvious thing. And that puts the ball in your court. Because when you convince a girl that she's just lucky to be in your presence, then the ball's in your court. I've convinced girls that I am God. And and hey, it's always a never-ending affair of them wanting you. So I mean, post on social networks, texting, everything. It's gonna be pretty obvious this chick is into you. So again, that puts the ball in your court, and so much as to say that you can declare rape at some point. Oh man, she put something in my drink. She's pregnant. She raped me. You gotta take that power from them, and you can use it yourself if you need to. As a man. So I don't really consider, they're amateur pickup artists that, yeah, I mean, they'll pull a chick out of a club, go with them home later that night, and whatever. But a real pickup artist will enter in the head of that woman, take ownership of her, and walk away. Follow you like a puppy. Snap too when you snap your fingers. You should do whatever you want. If as a guy, if you're not on that level, stop it. Just stop it, please. You're embarrassing the rest of us. Rape charges. I couldn't imagine being on rape charges. I could not imagine it. It's absurd. But anyhow, enough about me. These guys, and I don't know who spilled the beans. Was it the girl? Because if it was the girl, the quote unquote victim,
it was leaked to a reporter from somebody, and the reporters kept pushing it until the police had to do an investigation.
Okay, because she's liable to be sued. Because
absolutely,
settled out of court, she signed the NDA. So if that leak came anywhere from her camp, she's going to get sued. And so that's probably why her story changed towards the end there. No, I did give consent. So it's probably why. Yeah, so I don't know. Dudes, I understand being on a team. It's great being on a team. Been on many teams myself. I know we share activities. We like to do things together as teams. But if you're going to end up doing a woman as a team, well, you better have money on the table. Go get you a professional. Go get you a sex worker. Put money on the table. You can't just be dragging anyone off the streets into your world as some kind of a celebrity, sports celebrity, music, movies, whatever. You can't just do that. There are services just for those type of people. They need to use them. So in a way, what they did was a predatory act. If it actually went down, it was definitely a predatory act. And they had the intentions to do it, in my opinion. With that, I will pass it on.
Okay, I gotta throw in something here. These weren't professional. At the time, these were not professional hockey players. These guys, these kids did not have money to throw around like that. So, yeah.
But still, you have aspirations to be famous, to be successful. You don't want a dead hooker in the trunk scenario.
Oh, absolutely. Anyway, continue.
I can. Well, continue. I was going to start. V, you actually had asked something I was already asking, and I had said to my spouse about this as well too. So they settled out of court, and the woman got, I don't know what she got, don't care. Kind of hoping now she picked up something you can't get rid of with a shotgun, but that's just my more sadistic nature kicking in. So now this whole thing has to go back to court. What's going to happen if secrets are brought out, or the contract, or whatever else the case may be? And yeah, there was an NDA that basically, here's her hush money, da 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 da. Does she have to give all of the, if she's found guilty, rather if the guys are found innocent, and then it goes to countersue against her, she'll probably have to give that money back. Like, I'm not feeling terribly sympathetic for this female. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, what does a woman want? My wife, my spouse even said this today. Women don't know what they want. I'm sorry, but they don't. I said this to my team manager. What do women want? Well, I guess I suppose it just depends on how close they are to the feast leading up to it, or it's the famine leading up to every man's favorite visit from Aunt Flo. Now, I can pretty much guarantee you that women will say, well, it's not like that. It was like, well, no, actually it is. Again, women are going to be more attracted to some giga chad the closer they get to ovulating. And then once that goes away, oh, okay, well, it's not a case of post-nut clarity. Maybe it's post-period, pre-period clarity. I don't know what else to put. I don't know how else to phrase it. I'm not saying the women shouldn't be doing, females should not have any sort of sense of responsibility and whatnot. But at the end of the day, they're not stable. They're not emotionally stable. They're not stable, period. Sorry, ladies, it's just your biological nature. Hate me if you will. Don't give a fuck. Now with this, again, this was back in 2018 that the whole thing was basically all said and done. Maybe she ran through her fucking cash. Maybe she found someone else that told her to do something else. Maybe, just maybe. And it's a female reporter or two on the CBC, which is on the Canadian taxpayer, which is part of Team Trudeau. That has an axe to grind. Maybe is going through a messy divorce. I don't fucking know. I'm just fucking spitballing here. But maybe the CBC connection, which is dubious at best, has decided this might be a great time to. What about this? So when did this story break? Like what, 3 or 4 days ago? 5 days ago? Rocky?
It broke a few days ago, but it had been in the background for a few months before this actually broke.
Okay. So what of the possibility that this might be a great time to bring this out to deflect away from Trudeau?
Well, I think, like I was saying before, the Trudeau, the Minister of Sport right now has been pushing the concept of toxic masculinity at the sports level. And you have this very politically convenient case that's been in the back. It kind of like, the Kamloops residential school, which they knew about. for a couple of years before they went public with it. I don't necessarily think to say they're using it as an attempt to distract people from what's going on. This is a very convenient, politically convenient story for what the sports ministry has been pushing for the past couple of months, the concept of toxic masculinity. And there you go. You have this, and you know, you have quote unquote male privileged males in an elite system taking advantage of this poor defenseless 18-year-old girl, right? And it's very, like I said, it's very similar to the Duke lacrosse situation where you had 5 guys, or I think it's 4 or 5 guys from very wealthy, well-to-do white white families taking advantage of this black woman, allegedly, and it turned out to be a lie, right? But you have a dynamic very similar to Duke lacrosse. Continue.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole thing with the charter rights having been violated about the time that this came out. I'm sorry, but I just find it to be terribly convenient for this to be happening now. I really do. It's it was 6 days ago. Invoking Emergencies Act against convoy protests was unreasonable. Court rules 6 days ago. It's about the time that this hit the airwaves. So my feeling is this is a distraction. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want the boys, the men, whatever, to go through all of this crap again. But my feeling is that at this point, anything Trudeau can get to throw into the news to take away from what he's done to Canadians, to try to have people forget how much of a dictator the man is. I mean, let's not forget, again, that he loves the basic dictatorship of China. And what better way to try to exert your authority than to throw 5 people under the bus or under the Zamboni, than to conveniently do this about the same time that, hey, Justin, you have fundamentally violated the rights of every Canadian in the country. I'm sorry, but I don't see it being anything else other than that. No, maybe I'm wrong, although I don't think so. But when it comes to anything from Trudeau at this point, anything from any level of government that is so well, and let's not forget as well too. I mean, what was the first thing? Oh, fuck's sakes! I mean, fucking cock socks. That I have to find that and put that into our channel chat here. But fucking cock socks was at a. If this is no, it's not even ironic. It's fucking planned, in my honest opinion. He attended like the day of or the day after when he was told you violated the Charter of Rights. Well, where was he? He was at a fucking women's hockey game, cheering them on, whoever the fuck they were. I don't know. I don't care. So I'm sorry, but that's not. I can't see that being coincidental. Like, that was fucking planned. I mean, the man has always stated that he's a feminist. No fucking wonder his wife fucking left him for someone else. But that's another story unto itself. I'm sorry, but to me, this is a setup events leading up to, and I can't remember what we've had recently enough, either with the with COVID or with the trucker convoy or fucking Lord knows whatever else. Like, Trudeau's administration is playing dirty fucking pool. They absolutely are. Now, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, I don't know at this point in time. And it could very well take 2 years plus after whatever happens with all of this before that shit comes out. So part of me is going to future date this conversation. I'm going to wait and see, but I will not be surprised that this was all methodically planned out. If this has been brewing in the background for the last 3 to 4 years, they're waiting for the right time to bring this out. And this happens to be about the best time because, like I said before, Trudeau has to throw fucking everything at the wall and hope something that's going to stick, that's going to distract from his incompetence, his overreaching dictatorial desires, his need to absolutely control Canada from one part to the other. This is not a coincidence. And I'm gonna stop at that point because I'm just gonna keep repeating myself. Got nothing more to say.
Okay, well, yeah, well, it's 12. We're almost at the 3-hour mark anyway, so we're done. Yeah, interesting. Like I said, if we'd done all of this in one show, it would have run 5 hours. Just so you know. Very interesting. I'm going to be paying attention to topic number 6 very closely. For me, anyway, it looks a little bit too, it looks like Duke lacrosse all over again. And like what Rusin was saying, and what I've been saying, there was political motivations around Duke lacrosse, which are also tied in with this particular case and the timing of it and the situation of it, et cetera, which is very conveniently timed for a narrative that the Trudeau regime has been attempting to pull around sport for a while now. And Trudeau is absolutely is a feminist. But with that, for those of you who don't know, I am at Patreon as Naroki5, YouTube, Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, MGTOW TV, and TLB Talks, Facebook, Mind, Gab, MeWe, and Getter are my other sites. Tune in for the next one. Some new stuff is going to be, I'm going to have to edit a lot of stuff over the next couple of days. I go back out to camp on Wednesday, so my production is going to slow down. Hopefully, for the love of God, hopefully we're not having to do 2 shows next week because we've been busy. We're barely a month into this year, and it's already been super busy. But that is it for tonight's show. Thank you very much.